Yo, 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 what up? It's your boy, I Sleep Too Late, here with another video. And I want to talk about this new format that I created called Pure Hackmons No Nerfs. So I want you to close your eyes and imagine a Pokemon format where the sky was limitless, where you could use all the broken mechanics across every generation of Pokemon games, where Mewtwo's special defense was 154, Zacian Crown had an attack of 170, moves like Surf had 95 base power, Thunder 120. Now open your eyes and welcome to No Nerfs Pokemon Pure Hackmons. This is a format that I developed with the rest of my team, Electra, Enigmatis, and Alex BB. We were all part of the Pure Hackmons Discord server where I pitched this idea and it seemed like a lot of people were interested. The basic idea is that there's a lot of Pokemon that got nerfed over the years across generations. Nintendo has actively tried to balance their game, and our job is to unbalance them by giving every Pokemon the best of the best. So they have access to every move, ability, and hold item from every generation, just like a regular Pure Hackmons format. And their stats, their moves, the accuracies, they're all at their highest form from the peak of their strongest generation. So Surf, for example, was 95 in the earlier generations. Nowadays, it's like 90 base power, so we're bringing it back to 95. Battle mechanics are all coming back, every single one of them. Mega Evolutions, Z moves, Dynamaxing, and we're going to keep Terrestrialization in Gen 9. We're also going to let you use the permanent forms like Ultra Necrozma, Eternamax, etc., etc. And then I'm going to get to this in a bit. The Toxic Leech Seed exploit is a very interesting thing that I didn't even know about until after I explored this. And then we're also going to support singles, doubles, and triples. So I actually have a notepad or like a paste bin that I'm going to put in the link in the description of this video, discussing basically what everything I'm showing you here is a iteration of it. The only difference is that I included the sprites here up top. And the other thing that that's going to be different is that this that I'm showing you right now is accurate as of the end of August. Keep in mind that what is looming right now is Legend ZA, which is going to add some new Pokemon like Mega Dragonite, which we haven't included in this document yet. We haven't included any of the nerfs that we need to unnerf in that game because we don't have anything yet any data to work off of. But that paste bin that I'm going to link is going to have the up-to-date stuff across. I'm gonna make an attempt to update it as each generation goes through, so that you can see exactly what have been made. And maybe we'll do another paste bin in the future. But also of note, anything followed by 2 asterisks is like up for discussion basically. So here's the table of contents, and here's a list of the Pokemon. So in case you don't know, in Gen 1, the special stat was just one stat. It was not special attack and special defense. It was one stat, which is why I said Mewtwo can have a special defense of 154, which is the same as its special attack, because back in the days of Gen 1, it was the same stat. So what does this mean also is things like Chansey. Chansey has a special attack now of 105, which gets a 70-point boost in its base stat total even. Things like Gengar are good, Alakazam become amazing, things like that, and then all the legendary birds, they get boosts as well. We're undoing the Aegislash 140, bringing it back to 150 for its highest stat whenever it's in blade form or shield form. Zacian, Crown form, and Zamazenta go back to their original stat distribution from Gen 8. And then I didn't know about this until recently. The Treasures of Ruin. These were Pokemon in Gen 9 that were actually nerfed in the middle of the generation. So they got an update after version 1.0 of the game where they lowered the stats, and we're bringing those stats back to the pre-nerfed, pre-updated version. Other unavailable Pokemon, I don't know if you know these. These were the Pokemon that were in the Pokestar Studio, the movie aspect of Pokemon Black and White 2, I think it was. Where you get to fight off with these base 100. Every stat was like base stat of 100. And they had different typings, which was really cool. And then obviously Gen 8 Eternamax we're bringing back as well. Some of the restorations of the moves, I mentioned this before as well. Blizzard, Surf, all of those are going back to their original form. The Draco Meteor family, those are going to go back to 140. They went down to 130, I think, in Gen 6. Sky Attack and Solar Beam were 200, I think, in one of the Let's Go games. And then, of course, some other minor tweaks here. The other thing I also want to mention is Self-Destructing Explosion did used to cause opposing defenses to be halved. We're going to keep that the way it is. In Gen 1, I think they lowered the base stat to like the base power to like 130, 170. But I was told by the part of my team members that they actually went they were actually at their highest in like gens 2, 3, whatever. And then Hidden Power, I'd like to bring this back to its variable base power based on its IVs. I think that was a stronger version of what it is now. Minor accuracy nerfs reversed, PP restorations is whatever. And then something interesting about the additional effect changes. So Sludge goes back to 40%. Psychic lowers the special stat. That includes attack and defense. So we're going to make it 33.2% chance to lower both of those stats. Acid is actually a very powerful effect. I think it's like 10 or 20% in the current games, but it used to be 33.2% chance to lower defense. Back then it was special defense. So I think sorry, now it's special defense because acid is a special attack. Back then it was considered a physical attack, and which is why we're gonna keep it as special just for the sake of simplicity, but we're gonna make its effect lower the defenses instead of its special defense, and we're just gonna increase it to 33.2% from what it is now. We're gonna talk about Leech Seed and Toxic in just a bit. King's Shield, as you know, Aegislash got a huge amount of boosts in Gen 6. Amnesia is insane in this format because in Gen 1 it increased your special stat by 2 stages. So we're going to have Amnesia be both a nasty plot and I guess an amnesia. It'll increase both defense and special attack, special defense and special attack. In the older games, like these were the moves: Seismic Talk, Nightshade, Sonic Boom, and Counter and Bide. They were able to hit ghost types. We're going to make that the same case. And then there was a small but minor boost in some of these multi-attacking moves, where each hit would always deal the same damage. That means that if the first attack was critical, the second one will always be critical. However, it would end immediately if it broke a substitute. So if the first attack broke a substitute, you would not be able to hit a second time. I think that this version of the moves is still a buff compared to what it was now. And then Bind, Wrap, Clamp, Fire Spin were like basically making the opponent unable to attack or switch in Gen 1, and would basically like immobilize them completely, which was really strong. So we're going to keep that the way it is. Other minor things here: Double Edge does a quarter damage. Fire Fang used to be, if you played Hackmons in Gen 4, you would know that Fire Fang hits through Wonder Guard as a glitch in the game. It was just like a computer mistake, because Fire Fang normally is super effective against Shedinja anyway, but if you were to hack Wonder Guard on a Pokemon that wasn't weak to fire, Fire Fang would still be able to go through it. Basically, they used to call it a moldy move, which stands for like, Mold Breaker. Moves like Sunsteel Strike are moldy moves. So this is kind of like a moldy move. And then Hyper Beam, I want to mention this because there's no recharge if the target is KO'd. That's a Gen 1 mechanic. And I was told that Substitute is able to block some of these other moves in Gen 2. So we're going to keep those the way that they are. Surf is able to target all adjacent opponents. Nowadays, it also hurts your teammate, but we're going to make it not do that because that's how it was in previous iterations. Roar and Whirlwind. Now this is going to be interesting because I could see a move set where somebody makes like Roar Whirlwind with Prankster, making Roar and Whirlwind 0 priority, giving it to like Regieleki, right, which has 200 base speed, and then just cycling through your opponents as long as they don't have priority. So I think that would be kind of cool, a cool little adjustment. Some of the moves that got removed in Gen 9 all come back. Z moves come back. Let's Go Eevee Pikachu moves come back. Legends of Arceus moves come back. Signature moves like Dark Void used to be locked to Darkrai, or currently locked to Darkrai, no longer going to be the case in this format. Hyperspace Fury, which is locked to Hoopa Unbound, can now be used with any Pokemon. And Aura Wheel, which is our Morpeko move, can be used with any Pokemon, but it will default to an electric type, because I think with Morpeko, it becomes like dark, depending on what form it's in. Now going on to ability restorations, Battle Bond did get nerfed. We're gonna undo that nerf. Dauntless Shield and Intrepid Sword could only activate like once, I think. Now we can do it all the time. Protean Liberal only could be used once in the generations now. Now it can be used anytime, like what it was in Gen 6 and 7. Disguise was nerfed. We're gonna undo that, where you will just not get any damage from the first hit. Moody will also affect evasion and accuracy. The Ixolate, the 8 abilities will go back to their original 1.3 times damage multiplier. Gale Wings will no longer have the HP requirement. Parental Bond will go back to 50% hit. Prankster will remove the Dark Immunity. And then the weather abilities will go on forever, just like they did in Gen 5. And then of course we're gonna beef up Magic Guard, Arena Trap, and Shadow Tag as well. I also want to remove some species, some ability locks from species. This is kind of like just specific to Mimikyu. I just kind of think it'd be cool if we gave every Pokemon the ability to disguise, which effectively is a focus sash. We would basically say, okay, well, we're going to allow you to have this as an ability. The only exception to this is like the multi-type RKS system, because I think that if we gave every Pokemon the ability to use multi-type, then any Pokemon could have any type they want, and I think that would be too broken, and also it just wouldn't make any sense from a gameplay perspective. The other thing I want to mention, and I don't know if everyone knows this, but Arceus and Castform are unable to use Protean and Libero. If you give them that ability, they will not change typing, and it's because Arceus has the multi-type ability. It was designed to change types depending on the item. So for some reason, across all the games, it's like this, where Arceus can't use the ability Protean. So we're going to undo that. Berserk Gene was an item in Gen 2 that we're going to bring back. Basically doubles your attack, plus giving it 2 stages, and also confuses you. So it's kind of interesting because it like gives you basically a huge power. So I could see somebody doing like giving themselves huge power with Berserk Gene, and that would be like an insane, like you just quad your attack stat. But the downside is obviously that you confuse yourself, so that could be a little bit dangerous. And then some mechanics changes. The critical hit formula from Gen 1, the higher the speed was, the more likely you were to crit. Let me know in the comments what you think about this. I'm fluid about this. I'm pretty neutral. There's also the overflow glitch with Eternamax, where if the stat was high enough, it would only take like 1 damage from an attack, regardless of how much damage there was. The way to fight this would be like 1-hit KO moves. And I also did mention the Leech Seed Toxic ability that could be used against Eternamax. However, Electro pointed out to me that Emax is a poison type, so Toxic doesn't really work unless you use Corrosion. So Corrosion is might be a little bit relevant in this format. Who knows? But I do want to take the time to talk about Leech Seed and Toxic synergy. So if you have someone Toxic and Leech Seed, what happens is they end up doubling. They end up exponentially growing. And there's a really interesting video about this if you Google it, where like you give someone Leech Seed and Toxic. The Toxic will increase as usual, but Leech Seed will also increase, and it will drain you like exponentially, which is also crazy. Paralysis will go back to reducing the speed by 75%. This is just a buff T-Wave and Nuzzle. And then Confusion will go back to 50% of a self-hit rate. The reason why we're doing that is so we can buff those 2 moves, Chatter and Nuzzle. There's additional status properties like Gen 1 Parafreeze, like Freeze was used to be permanent. There was no ability to thaw yourself out automatically. People were against this idea. I'm open to it. Again, this is a theoretical format, so we're open to discussion here. Sleep mechanic was also pretty bad in Gen 1 and Gen 5, I heard, so we're going to just leave that alone. And the other interesting thing about this format that I want to mention, I probably should have mentioned this up top. The typing, we're going to make Psychic immune from Ghost. So we're going to give Psychic Ghost immunity. The reason why is because that was the case in Gen 1, and it was a huge buff to Psychics. It was actually not intended from a programming perspective. I think they said that they left it as a mistake, but we're going to keep it because Psychic is kind of a weak typing nowadays, given that they introduced, Dark and Steel in the newer generations like Gen 2. Psychic just got nerfed really bad. And so between giving Psychic the move over 30% chance to lower special attack and defense special, and 95 base power and boosting its psychic, the ghost immunity. I think that'll make psychic a very powerful typing, which it ought to be. We're not going to mess with terrain or weather outside of the permanent weather ability thing. And then as far as format rules and balance, we're going to stick to like Smogon rules, I guess. 252 EVs in every stat from the pure Hackmons perspective. And the beauty about this, and I just want to mention this as we go back to down to the summary, this is fluid. And this doesn't necessarily mean that this is the be-all end-all format. No Nerfs is an environment. You can use No Nerfs for things like Machamp, which used to learn Fissure and had the ability to use No Guard, but they got rid of the ability for it to learn. That you can't use No Guard, Fissure, Machamp at all because they made it that way. But I could foreseeably imagine a No Nerfs OU format where you allow every Pokemon to have every move that they had access to at some point in their lives, while giving them any ability that they used to have at one point in their lives. So that could be its own No Nerfs format. You could have glitch No Nerfs, where like in Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, there was a glitch that allowed you to give every Pokemon any access to any move ever. So that could be a glitch No Nerfs. You could have Little Cups No Nerfs, where baby Pokemon like Abra and Ghastly will just reign supreme. And I mentioned that earlier. That's the reason why I did that whole diagram up top with all the with all of these abilities. You know, like I documented every single Pokemon in Gen 1 that had a special, that would get a boost from their special defense or special attack. Because Abra and things like Cloyster, you know, these are small changes, but they could be relevant in a format where you include No Nerfs. So just because this is pure Hackmons No Nerfs doesn't mean you can't extend No Nerfs to other formats. And that's the beauty of what we accomplished today. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Special thanks to Electra, Enigmatus, and Alex BB for being part of the team. Special thanks to the Pure Hackmons Discord community for giving feedback on this format. And I also want to thank Pokemon Showdown for making it possible to have a custom format using their open source modifications. This was it. This was the video. I spent a lot of time and effort putting this together. Let me know in the comments what you think. I know a lot of people out there are wondering what I'm doing with this channel. I'm making Magic content. I'm making Pokemon content. I think I'm going to do a little bit of both. And it's going to be a lot of fun. Like I said, it's going to be fluid, but I'm going to try to make more Pokemon content out there in the future. Hope this video helps. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or concerns or things you want changed or maybe advice about suggestions about this format. Let me know. Take it easy, everyone. Peace out.